Hi everybody, welcome back to another week. Welcome to those that are following on with our Stitch Sampler project, and welcome to those that are just coming on to have a look at this particular flower. There's different, you can use this flower for many different projects in many different ways. Even if you're not doing the full Sampler Stitch book. But if you haven't heard of our Sampler Stitch book, go back and have a look at our previous videos, and you'll see where we're going with that. This is actually a piece for our second page. On each page we have some patches of stitches that we're learning, and then we complete a picture using those stitches. Alright, so this week we need to look at our centerpiece and our outline stitches. So we'll actually be referring back a lot to the stitches that we did for our first page here, and get to practice and play with those a little bit. So I'm going to start off in our center section. I'm going with the dark cochineal. For those of you that didn't see part one, I'm using some 2-ply embroidery wool, which you can find at our shop, and these are all naturally hand dyed. These are our cochineal range, a light, a mid and a dark. You can of course use your own wool, but I would suggest that if you're going to follow along with this project, it's all been designed around either a 2-ply wool, which there are other brands out there. Definitely go ahead if you've got some in your stock, best way to go. Or if you haven't got any embroidery wool thread, then maybe try something like a Pearl 5. Something that's a little bit thicker and that you are able to cover all the lines with. Alright, so we're going to start off with our middle section. Again, I'm using the dark cochineal. And I thought for this section we would just go back to our seed stitch. Now for those of you that are new, if you're not sure on how to do the seed stitch, you will find a previous video on how to do the seed stitch, although it's really not too hard. It's basically just going around and doing some straight stitches in a random way. So I think the hardest part of this stitch is keeping things random. I think that our brains like to just automatically put things in some sort of order. Oh, that's what I find anyway. Maybe it's just my brain, I'm not sure. But so we're just doing some random stitches, trying to keep them the similar size. If you don't, then that's fine. You know, nothing needs to be perfect. This is a flower. In nature, nothing is perfect, but still looks perfect when you view it all as one piece. So go along with that theory. I'll come back when I finish seeding that, and we'll start looking at some of our outline. Okay, so we've done the seed stitch there in the middle. Bit of variety. So now we're going to start working on our outlining. Now if you would prefer, you can just do one type of outlining for all of the petals and the center part. You could just, I would recommend maybe using a split stitch for the whole lot, and you just use whatever colour that you've used inside the piece. But if you would like to do, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to play around with all the different stitches we did on page 1, just so that we can have a practice and a go back through all these stitches. So I'm going to start off with back stitch. I thought we would do these under petals in the lighter pink in a back stitch. Mind you, we have done a little bit of back stitch already in this work if you used your back stitching to form your grids, but it's always good to just Keep practicing these stitches. The more you practice, the better you'll get at getting the same length each stitch. They're saying that. I've been back stitching for decades and still they're never perfect, but that's fine too. Don't necessarily believe in perfection here. So you start at the bottom of your petal, at the join of your petal to the flower, and then as you're getting towards the top you need to think about, you want to end it there. So for example here I could either do 3 really small stitches or 2 larger ones. I might go with 3 smaller stitches. So that way you don't end up having an even really small stitch right at the top. Alright. And then we'll come back down this side. So I'm going to use the back stitch to outline all of these second tier petals, all the petals that are underneath the top layer. And then we'll come back and have a look at our next layer. Like I said, if you'd rather have something more consistent, you could use back stitch for everyone, split stitch for everyone. If you would like a little bit more of a I don't know, what's the word? Consistent look. Alright, so I'll finish the rest of these light pink petals and come back for our next one. Okay, I'm back. I've done my back stitching on all my second tier petals, and now I'm going to work on the top tier petals. For this stitch I thought we'd have a go at our split stitch again. So to do a bit of quick recap, we do a straight stitch and then we come up through that stitch, splitting it roughly in half, and then we go back down again, and then we come up again halfway, which should be pretty much at the bottom of the first straight stitch. We keep going. It might be a little hard to see with all the embroidery here, so if you need a quick recap, go back to our video. There's a video there on split stitch. It may be a little hard to see with all this embroidery around it exactly what I'm doing. But I'm basically, you end up with sort of 2 layers of stitches on top of each other, half and half overlapping, which gives you a bit more of a uniform line. And also because this first tier of petals is meant to be closer to us than the second tier, it just sort of gives us a bit more of a raised edge, a little bit more of a two-dimensional feel. Okay, so I'm going to do all of these petals in this way. How long you do your stitches is up to you. Just so long as you try and keep consistent, though I have a feeling I haven't at all kept consistent here. And as you're going around, you remember you do have some slight curves here, so you don't want anything too big. Because obviously a straight stitch along a curve doesn't quite stick to the contour quite as well if it's longer. If you have smaller stitches, it'll contour around a lot easier. Okay, so I will do all these petals. The other thing I'd like to point out is on these two sides here where you have two petals that sort of overlap, always do the one that is being overlapped first. So the petal that has the full outline should always be the last one you do. So this one here that would basically start here, we'll do first. And that way you're going over that join with your final one, and it's hiding anything and stopping any white from coming through. If you did this one first and then came up here, I mean, it's using 2-ply wool, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But if you're using a thin cotton and doing a little bit more delicate embroidery, if you were to do this one first and then do this petal, you may end up with a little bit of a white dot in between trying to butt the two up. This way you don't even have to worry about it. You start this side, this petal here, and then you'll go over that join when you do this petal here, and that'll just tidy anything up and have it all nice and neat. So it's always a good idea, even though it's not too important in regards to 2-ply wool embroidery, it's always a good idea to sort of start your habits right in the first place, so that when you do then start maybe doing a little bit more finer embroidery, you're sort of already in the habit of doing things the right way. It's the reason why we've always started with the second tier flowers first, and then we're going over. So again, you just go over where those two join. You won't see where it started. And now we're going to do the same thing with these petals. So always do the under petal first, and the petal that you have a full outline for last. Okay, I'll be back when it's all done. Okay, so I've finished all the outlining now for the darker pink petals. And as you can see, by just changing up your stitch, where we've done the back stitch here and we've done the split stitch here, it just sort of gives you the illusion that the petals are sitting on top of those petals, just because that's a little bit thicker and it stands out a little bit more. It's the same as I was talking to you about earlier, where we've done these joints, because we've done this one first and then this one sits over the top, it's showing you that this petal is sitting over the top, and it just helps to keep that message going. So now we're going to look at our middle circle, and I thought for this one I'm going to change it up again. And we shall do, again in our dark cochineal, or in the darker colour of whatever threads you have. I thought this time we would do chain stitch. Just small ones, we don't want to have big holes going through. We don't want to have it looking like an open, big open piece. If we do small chain stitches, and again, if you're unfamiliar with the chain stitch or you need a bit of a refresher, there is a video that you can watch to catch you up on that. Now, as we're doing these chain stitches, we want to make sure that, again, as we're going over these lines, we want to make sure we're going over whatever's sitting on the outside of the circle. So we're sort of encompassing everything that sits in that circle. So as you can see, as we're coming around that curve there, we're going over the top of that leaf and just encompassing everything in that, and it just tidies everything up on the edge of that petal and allows us to have one nice lovely round continuous line sitting over the top and encompassing everything. So I'll continue around that circle and I'll come back. Okay guys, so I've finished my chain stitch around the outside and I'm quite happy with that. However, I am feeling that maybe the seed stitching in the middle here is not quite enough. I think I want something that is going to be a little bit more concentrated of colour. So what I thought I'd do, and I am just playing off the cuff here, so bear with me, is maybe turn these seed stitches into some random crosses and see if I'm happier with that. Now this could be a total failure. I don't know, but I keep telling you guys that experiment and play and see what you're happy with. If you're not happy with something, have another go or add to it. So I'm going to practice what I preach. I'm not entirely happy with the seed stitch there. So I'm going to turn these into little crosses. And see if I'm any happier with that. So you're coming along a little journey here with me. This is not the way I drew up the pattern. But it's the way I think that everyone should come to embroidery. It's an attitude I think everyone should come to embroidery with. It's all about being creative and following your own intuition and following your own likes and dislikes. You might be perfectly happy with just the seed stitch in the middle. You might go, when I finish this, oh my God, what did you do that for? And that's okay, that's fine, that's good. Everyone should do what makes them feel good about their work. That's why embroidery is such a creative and fun way of expressing yourself, that everyone can do something a little bit different and try different things and see what suits them. And I think out of all of these videos where I'm showing you basic stitches or putting together pictures, I hope that's the main thing you take out of this. There are no hard and fast rules. that if you don't like the way one person does something, or you really like a design but there's one part of it that just doesn't feel right to you, change it. Make it your own. Make it yours. Okay, so I think I might just add another one here. We've got a bit of a white area there. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit happier with that. A little bit more fulfilled with that one, I think. I never done seeded cross stitch before, so again, it's something totally off the cuff, but something I'm a little bit happier with. I'm actually wondering now whether to go the whole hog and turn some of them into stars. What do you think? Why not? Let's give it a go. I don't know if I'll turn all of them into stars, but I might just do a few here and there, just to give the stitches a little bit of height and a little bit of a standout. Especially seen as the chain stitch ring around the outside sort of stands out a bit, stands up a bit. I don't know, it's hard, it might be hard for you to see that. You might be seeing a more sort of one-dimensional version than what I am in real life. But if it doesn't look right afterwards, after I've finished, we can always pull it out again. You're not going to know unless you give it a go. Sounds a bit trite, doesn't it? So I'm just randomly picking some of the crosses. And turning them into stars to just add a bit of dimension there in the middle. Yes, I'm much happier with that actually. Much happier. See? Give it a go. You never know. You of course can do whatever you want in the middle there. If you like that, go ahead with that. If you just want to stick with the seeds, go ahead with the seeds. But I think I prefer a little bit more concentrated colour and a bit more of a dimensional look there with the stars. So we've finished. We've used our stars and crosses and our grids and diagonal grids to be able to fill in our flowers, and then we've gone back and revisited some of the stitches we used on our first page, our back stitch, our split stitch and our chain stitch, to be able to form a lovely little flower. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you give it a go and add your own differences to it and add your own take on it as well, so that you can have your play and fulfill your creativeness inside you. Alright, I'll see you next time. Bye.